And you're going to have issues with your RV. They all do, no matter what you pay for. You're going to have plumbing issues. You're going to have a furnace issue. You're going to have lighting issues, whatever.
Welcome back to another episode of Our Podcast. Today's guest is Mike Mixa, who's been living full-time in his RV since 2017, along with his wife Julie, minus a short stint during the pandemic. Mike joins us to discuss what it's really like living the RV lifestyle and to provide some tips for those looking to be an RVer. Just introduce yourself.
I'm Mike Mixa, and my wife Julie and I have been doing the full-time RVing for about 4 years now. It's been 2 stints. Our first stint was 3 years, and now we're on a 1-year stint. And we've changed RVs through the way also. We had a Class A gas motorhome to start with in 2017. That was a 34-foot, and we towed a vehicle at the time, which is a positive. You can tow an economical vehicle with you and waste the gas on your trip. Once you land, of course, the smaller vehicle comes in handy. But since then, we sold the motorhome and decided on a travel trailer and towing with a pickup truck. Trade-off there is you don't have 2 engines to maintain, so that's a financial plus. But you need storage. In the motorhome, we had a lot more storage, so we opted for a bunkhouse with a travel trailer with a couple of slides. And we made sure it had a drop frame in the front end, which is a plus because you have more pass-through storage with that. And the bunkhouse, not only for grandchildren who don't stay with us very often, but it's extra storage. Another plus with that choice. But of course, you don't get great gas mileage, so you're with the truck continually. When towing, of course, terrible gas mileage, but like I always say, the longer you can park it, the better the gas mileage. So we're good there.
Before this podcast, Mike, I spent a few days going down the YouTube rabbit hole in terms of RV living. You and your wife are both retired, yep, and you live in the RV full time. Right. Is this correct?
Right. Obviously, you have to love each other. It's tight quarters. We've been married 46 years, so we're doing all right.
Living in 200 square feet, whatever, you gotta... One of the things I gathered going down the RV YouTube rabbit hole was that it's really more of a lifestyle than a budgetary thing. Like, if you want to do it to save money, it seems like it's not really the best choice of retiring. Would you agree that it's more of a lifestyle than a budgetary?
Definitely that. And as I always say, you can follow the weather. And that's what we've been doing. Been doing Florida for 6 seasons. We did that before full-time. And this year we're changing it up. Julie doesn't care for humidity, so she talked me into Arizona. So that's where we're headed towards the end of October.
Some of the videos I was watching, it seemed like if you want to do it for under $40,000 a year, that was considered really frugal. The $50,000 to $60,000 mark was pretty common. And then a lot of people I was actually surprised were well over 75,000, but those were people, they considered themselves to be more tourist than campers and basically did zero boondocking, is that what they call it, or boondoggling?
Yep.
I'm not sure. The
boondocking is where you have no hookups whatsoever. You don't have electricity, you don't have water, you don't have sewer. We don't prefer that. We prefer at least electricity and a dump station at the campground. But when we do long-term, like when we went to Florida and now Arizona, we stay for, well, this year it's going to be 5 months at one place. And obviously you want the amenities that come along with that. We have the full hookups, sewer, water, electric. And you mentioned cost. I think we're in that lower range. We don't eat out a lot. We like cooking at home, taking advantage of the amenities that the resort offers. And most of them do offer a lot of entertainment. They have pool, pickleball, which is a plus. We always look for pickleball. And that's how I met your parents and got connected with you, playing pickleball. You meet a lot of great people. But yeah, we're probably at the lower end of that budget range.
You also pick 2 locations a year, right? You're basically in northeastern Wisconsin in the good season months for the north, and then you're going to Florida, you said Arizona. So you're not putting on 20,000 miles a year like some people, where their gas bill is probably 10, 12,000.
Right. It's not continually traveling for us. A lot of people do. Wisconsin is our home base. Basically, kids and grandkids are all up here. So, of course, we want to spend time with them and watch their activities. Also, to offset some of those costs when we're in Wisconsin, back in 2014, we started campground hosting for the state forests. And we've been doing that off and on since then. We just completed about 13 weeks of campground hosting, 10 weeks up in the Northern Highland American Legion State Forest, way up north, where we only had electricity, and you get the site free for the work you do as a host. So that offsets some of the budgetary constraints also. And we enjoy doing it. We enjoy giving back to the forest. We've always enjoyed camping in Wisconsin. But then now where we're staying, there's a campground near our hometown with all the amenities that we like. And we're taking advantage of that now before we leave for Arizona.
What do you think are some of the biggest expenses? You have fuel, you have insurance and maintenance on the vehicle. You probably have a phone bill and Wi-Fi. You have to park the RV somewhere, so you have either RV parks or campgrounds. And then, of course, you have food and groceries. And then possibly you might have a pet. From the breakdown that I was looking at, the fuel and the campgrounds were the two kind of the biggest expenses. And then depending on the year of your RV, maintenance could be a huge thing as well.
Right. No doubt the fuel and the stays are the biggest expense. Most people find, as we do, the longer you stay at a place, the better the discount. If you only stay in a few nights, you're not going to get those discounts. So we take advantage of that, and we like the long-term stays in the winter anyway. If you like to dine out, you're going to spend a lot more if you do it continually. It's nice to break that up a little bit and tour around where you are. We like biking and hiking, and wherever we've been, that's been offered. When we've stayed in Florida, it wasn't really on the coast anywhere. It was a day trip to either coast, so we still have that if we wanted it. But you're on the money there when you talk about fuel and your stays, definitely.
What was the main motivation, the main reason that you decided to become a full-time RVer? You were RVing well before retirement, so you were experienced with it. My parents, you've said you met them, which is how we got connected, but they live in Wisconsin half the year, then they live in Panama, the country, the other half, so they have a different kind of retirement strategy. But how did you kind of go down this RV path?
We've seen that others were doing it, and we thought for many years, if we ever had the opportunity, maybe we want to try that. And we finally did. We were living in a condo and still doing the RV thing to Florida and so on, and coming back to the condo. And out of the blue, somebody wanted to buy the condo. Didn't have it up for sale, but the price was right. And we thought, here's our opportunity. That's when we bought the motorhome, the Class A motorhome. And we started the full-time in 2017 at that time. We do have a lot of furnishings in storage. It's a just in case because someday you're going to give it up or have to give it up. We realize that. So there's a just in case there. We're always prepared.
What were some of the biggest adjustments? I was looking at some videos where a lot of these motorhomes don't even have a washer and dryer, and you have small refrigerators. You go into the grocery store quite a bit more. If you are used to a big yard, you're sacrificing that, maybe having neighbors you don't like. There's a lot of adjustments. Can you talk about what were some of the biggest adjustments and how you've handled them?
The biggest adjustment is downsizing. We donated a lot. We gave a lot to children and friends, sold a lot of items. But that was the biggest and kind of a shocker at first. Losing your yard and so on, that's something that we felt. But we've found that in most places we've gone, there's great people doing what we're doing. We make a lot of new friends, longtime friends. And that's another plus to it. But you did a lot of good research on it, but that's probably the biggest shocker is downsizing and losing what you had. But this is a great replacement as long as we can do it and do the travel. We're looking forward to, after Arizona, we'll get into that, but making your plans for on the road, where you're going to stay and so on. You have to do this a long time out nowadays because a lot more people are doing it. So we're already making plans for leaving Arizona and going up into Utah and the national parks there. So we have to start making those reservations if we want to make sure we have a place to stay. Those are some of the considerations and some of the research you have to continually do because you have to be someplace. So it's not like a home. You got your home with you.
How far do you have to make those national park reservations? Like if you're in Zion or Canyonlands or something like that. In my experience, I've gone to a lot of these national parks and just trying to find a regular campsite, it may be booked up a couple of years in advance. Yeah, and if you want to hit the private campsites outside of those areas, they're expensive. I was seeing videos where they're charging $160 a night to park your RV, which is insane.
It is. We don't look for those. We look for the bargains. Right now, we are making reservations for early April into Zion in that area. And we were able to secure what we wanted so far. But it could become a challenge, but at least a year out, especially if you're going to stay long-term at a resort. We had to do that a year out.
So you're planning pretty far in advance. If you're booking you're saying at least a year out. Are you even talking possibly 2 years out as well?
We haven't run into that. We've run into a year out is probably the norm for us.
You said that you started this initially in 2017. Before we started recording this, you said you stopped during COVID just because a lot of places were closed, so you just really couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But so 2017, we're talking 6 years back. Have you noticed that there's been a huge influx of people living this lifestyle the last couple of years after, say, post-pandemic?
Right. And pandemic created a workforce that obviously works remotely, a lot of them. So we're finding a lot more younger people getting into this lifestyle and still working, and they're loving it. They can go wherever and be in the beautiful weather and still continue making their income. That's one of the changes since the pandemic also. But it forced a lot of people to isolate, of course, and more people got into RVing. So I think that compounds some of these issues that we're running into, making these reservations long-term out.
So let's try to put some numbers on this, Mike. How many more people would you say? Is it 10% more, 20% more, 30% more? And then what percentage now would you say are people that are actually not even retired, but are younger people that are working remotely?
As far as the younger people, there's probably 10% where we've been ending up. A lot of traveling nurses and others that have their own businesses or are working for other companies remotely. At least 10%, I would say, we're running into. Normally, we look for a 55 and older type resort, but the last 2 years was not that restriction. That's where we saw a lot of these younger people. The one we're going to in Arizona, I think, is a 55 and older, but there are exceptions. And many times they'll allow younger in, especially if they're remote workers. So I think they find that acceptable also. The other part of your question?
Just how many more people are living the RV lifestyle in 2023 versus 2017 when you started?
Yeah, there's a large increase. And, of course, the population has aged. So you have more retirees involved.
So do you think it's 10% more, 20% more? I mean, you're already adding 10%
10% of the younger, I'd say 20% more overall.
Right. So to say 10% of that's younger, 10% of that's retired, so you get about 20% more total.
Yep.
You're from Wisconsin. You go back to Wisconsin every year. So do you go back to the same campground every year?
The full hookup campground where we're at right now, we stay here often because it is near hometown, near relation, and not too far from our kids and grandkids. So kind of that home base. But as I said, we do the campground hosting. This coming year, we're probably going to do that in August of 2024. And then end up where we're at again.
Do you find that you see the same people that come back every year? Or is there a community that just does the same circuit?
Yep. As a matter of fact, we've made friends with people from Texas in the last 4 years who have stayed here at this campground, getting away from the heat and enjoy the cool lakeshore, Lake Michigan area. And they ended up buying a house in the Two Rivers area for their summer home. So there's a lot of that too. People finding a place they like and ending up buying into it. And we see that when we're traveling also, stay at these resorts, which many of them have park model homes for sale where you can live long term. And a lot of people that end up liking the area where they're staying end up buying one of those. and don't do the travel in an RV anymore, just from point A to point B.
There's different types of people then. So you have people that maybe just want to explore. You might have people that probably think it's cheap and then they find out maybe it's not. Other people maybe are looking for just kind of travel around, find a place to retire. Maybe people always wanted to explore the U.S. What are the kind of the different groups that people fall in that do this lifestyle?
Wide variety. There's several like our situation, but there's others that will be traveling and staying someplace for a month at a time and just move on to enjoy the rest of their adventure. Some prefer state parks wherever they go. The restriction on those, most state parks only allow you to stay 2 weeks at a time. And then you have to move to another state park and so on. So you talk about reservation issues when you're doing that. And that's how we first started out in 2014 when we went down to Florida. We were going to do the state park thing and had several reservations. And we found out after a while that it was so cumbersome to be packing up and setting up every 2 weeks that we ended up staying at a place in Florida for 3 months. And we started to enjoy that lifestyle. But many still love the aspect of state park camping. And we love state parks wherever we go also. But for us, it's not a long-term solution that we're looking for anyway.
We talked about boondocking before. So what percentage of actual RVers you think boondock versus go to a park and set up shop for at least 3 weeks or a month or something like that?
I'm just guessing here, but I'd say maybe 30%. As we age, those amenities, the comfort level becomes an issue. Just being able to settle in and relax and meet up with friends that if you've gone to a place a couple of years on end, you meet up with the same people again and you form a good group of friends and associations.
You'd have to be pretty self-reliant, especially if you're going to BLM land out in Utah or Montana or Colorado or something. If you're talking a 33-foot RV and then you have a 30-foot trailer, I'm not even sure how many roads you could even...
Yeah, there are restrictions. You have to remember some of these, like the state parks, were built many, many years ago, and they weren't built for the large RVs that you have on the road today. So a lot of state parks, you're restricted on size. We can get into most sites in a state park with 33-foot, but you get beyond that, and you're restricted to a few sites in certain state parks.
What's the ideal size for someone that's thinking about doing this lifestyle and doesn't really know a whole lot?
Well, you have to do your research. How much room are you going to need? You have to think about your storage. What are you bringing along? I've seen 42-foot motorhomes, diesel pushers, very nice, 4 slides, a lot of room. You're talking a lot of expense, but many people have that lifestyle. Yeah, the research, look around, look through RVs, look at floor plans, look at your costs. What do you want to spend? Sky's the limit if you have the funds.
How's your social life? I mean, you have a built-in advantage in the fact that you're able to stay in a pretty cool area in Wisconsin. Maybe I'm biased because I'm from Wisconsin, but you're basically close to Lake Michigan, and then you got fishing and like you're talking about pickleball and all sorts of activities. You're able to see your family, grandkids. But if you weren't fortunate enough to be so close to home, how would being away from friends and family for a big chunk of the year, how would you adjust to that?
Being away from family for the amount of time that we do go to wintering or snowbirding, that's long enough. We need family association also. And hopefully if they say the same thing, they need us. Anyway, but the time we are away, again, we meet up with a great percentage of wonderful people. Anyway, we just love the association. There's where you learn a lot about what do you want to do next also. The sharing of stories, where you've been, where you want to be. Is this the best RV? Is that the best RV? And through those friends, you get to see their lifestyle, and hey, maybe that's something we might want to change up. But a good network of people, that's always helpful. We've got friends from Canada that we met in 2018 in an RV park in Florida. We've maintained our friendship throughout the years and have stayed in Florida with them a couple of times already. And as a matter of fact, they're changing up and going to Arizona, where we're going this year. We've gone over to visit them near Niagara Falls, and they've come to visit us. And that's some of the friendships that are long-lasting and wonderful. We are communicating almost every day with those people.
Yeah, I mentioned my parents being retired in Panama for half the year, and it's like easy to make friends because the expat communities finds each other. It seems like it's the same thing with the RV community, right? You're all in this either a small campground or park together. It's pretty easy to make friends, I would imagine. You're all at the same point in your life. You're all around the same age, retired. It's got to be easy to make friends. Would you say that's correct?
Definitely. And if you can't complain about not enough to do at these places either. There's so much to offer. There's entertainment, there's card clubs, there's potlucks that you get involved with. So you meet a variety of people, not just on the pickleball court, which we play a lot, but at these different events also. You meet people from your own state and others, of course. It's just a lot of fun and sharing, enjoying each other.
Have you ever broke down at all before driving, or what's the maintenance situation like?
Good question. I was making some notes earlier about that because you had mentioned it previously. But fortunately, breakdowns we haven't had yet. But preparation, we're always prepared for one. And that's some of the research you have to do also. Maintenance on the vehicles, your tow vehicle, your motorhome, your trailer that you're towing is the utmost important. And those tires that you're riding on are very important. And that's probably one of the main issues with most people that are traveling is blowouts. And part of maintaining and jumping ahead of that issue is tire pressure monitoring systems. We have that on our RV, and we used to have it on the tow vehicle that we used to pull behind the motorhome, just so we could monitor that tire pressure as we're going. You get a warning if your tire pressure is going low, or if you have a sudden blowout, you have an alarm. So that you don't create more damage to that RV, you can pull over as soon as possible. And then you have to have the equipment with you for changing that tire, or you rely on roadside assistance, which could take some time. We always have a generator with us and an air compressor in case we have to fill up at short notice. We have the tire pressure monitoring system, which saved us already. We found low pressure in a tire as we were traveling, and I was able to pull over and monitor it, and thought, well, it's slow enough and we'll get where we're going. And I found out it was just a valve stem that wasn't tight enough. So made my own repairs on that and we were good to go. But yeah, many people run into those blowout issues. And there's other maintenance issues, of course. If you can do your own maintenance, the more the better. Your roof, your slides, your seals. And you're going to have issues with your RV. They all do, no matter what you pay for. You're going to have plumbing issues. You're going to have a furnace issue. You're going to have lighting issues, whatever. But if you do the research and can troubleshoot and fix most of these issues on your own, better to you. Because, as you know, the more people that are buying these things and want them maintained by a dealer are going to wait. If you have an issue that you have to bring it back to the dealer, it's like going to a doctor for a diagnosis and then follow-up. You're going to first have to make an appointment to diagnose the issue, and that could be weeks or even months out, and then bring it back again to rectify that issue with parts or whatever. So the valuable things that we found in this circumstance is YouTube forums, online forums. You can get on forums for your brand of RV and just search for an issue. You're going to find out many people have had your issue, and here's how they rectified it, and it really takes the stress out of things. I found both of those very valuable. I've learned a lot. I can do most repairs on my own. The other thing we talked about, going back to a dealer and that time-consuming issue, if you're on the road and you're full-time and you have to tie up your home at a dealer, can you stay in that home? Or do you have to rent a motel for that duration of those repairs? That's a big issue. So what we found is RV mobile techs. Very valuable people. There's many of them out there. You can search and review those in your area wherever you are. Most are certified to do warranty work. So if you still have warranty on your RV or an extended warranty, as we do, we value that. They're not real cheap, but peace of mind. But the RV techs are certified to do that warranty work and get reimbursed. Those are things that we found, and we've used a couple of our RV techs, and they saved a lot of time, and we were able to stay in place. Do your research and review.
Yeah, it's good information, Mike, things a lot of people wouldn't think of. So How much would you say that you spend per year on maintenance and repairs?
My wife's the accountant, but
Right. Just a ballpark.
I'd just be guessing. Maintenance and repairs on the RV, so far, this one is new. And that's the other thing. If you're in warranty yet, I've had good dealings with the company, the manufacturer of this RV, and assured them that the issues that I've had, I can rectify myself. Just send me the parts. They've been very good about that. So that's saved money in this first year anyway. But probably looking at, I'm guessing 5,000 or so. I don't do all my wheel bearing issues, or not issues, but it's a maintenance item. You need to repack those wheel bearings annually or every 12,000 miles. And I have somebody do that for me because most resorts or campgrounds that you're at don't allow you to do mechanical work on site. So I'd be jacking up the trailer and greasing things. I don't want to cause any problems that way. I could do it myself. I have the equipment to do it myself, but I take that to a mechanic and have him do it. But that's peace of mind, too. You're greased up and ready to go for the next trip.
What's the biggest mechanical issue outside of the tires? You mentioned that. It seemed like that's a pretty big deal. But outside of the tires, do you have issues with the bathroom or the shower? Do you have issues with the furnace, the refrigerator, the heater?
I've had some leaks, which I was able to troubleshoot. And mostly, it's going to be tightening some plumbing, tightening some connections. Because you think of it, your home's in an earthquake. Every time you move, it's shaking down the road, and it's going to shake things loose. But I've been able to troubleshoot leaks. We haven't had any refrigerator problems. We do have a 12-volt refrigerator, which is new for me. Usually, in a lot of RVs, you have propane and electric. We do not have to rely on propane with this refrigerator. But the downside of that is you have to have batteries powerful enough to maintain that refrigerator when you're not hooked up. This one came with a 200-watt solar panel, which helps, as long as you have sun, helps maintain those batteries to run the refrigerator if you're not hooked up. We haven't had issues with that, but that's one concern. If I had to unplug for a long period of time, we'd have to rely on a generator each day to charge up those batteries again. So we have the generator for that reason also if we have to use it. Other issues we've run into in the past, this was with the Class A motorhome, is hydraulics. We had some problems with hydraulic slide, big slide that's pushed out hydraulically, and we had some issues with that, and it was a valve, hydraulic valve that had to be replaced. There again, I learned how to do this on YouTube and through forums, and the company sent me the valve, and I was able to replace it. So saving some money there again. But that's one thing that went out. And actually, that went out twice on me in that motorhome. Years ago, we had an air conditioner go out on an RV. Well, when that happens, if it's mechanically broken down, it has to be replaced. And that can be expensive. That could be $3,000 to $4,000 for an air conditioner. At that time, I think we were still under warranty with that one and had it replaced. But those things can happen. But again, maintaining them, keeping your coils clean, keeping your air filters clean in your air conditioners, that all extends the lifetime of those. And that's with anything. Your water heater, we have one with an anode rod, which takes the hardness or doesn't wreck the heater itself, the internal tank. But you have to change that periodically because that anode rod does its job and it whittles down in time and you have to replace it. You have to flush that tank out. You find in a lot of places you're running into hard water, so there's a lot of calcium buildup. And that gets into your plumbing and everything too. All these things you learn. I never knew all this from the start, but over the years you learn having different RVs and talking to others that have run into the issue.
You've done this. You've learned a lot of stuff. Is this a lifestyle that you plan on living for the foreseeable future? What's your thoughts on it after 6 years minus a little break during the pandemic?
Well, right now our mindset is still, as long as we're healthy enough and able to do it, we're going to continue. If I talk to you next year, that could have changed. I don't know. But right now, at this point, that's the mindset we're at. We're loving it. We're anticipating, again, changing it up and seeing something different this year, this coming winter, and after doing our traveling before we come back home into Utah and sites beyond. And that's another thing I wanted to bring up. sometimes you have to change those plans and your routes due to weather. A few years back, we were traveling back from Florida, and they were predicting a large snowstorm in April up here in Wisconsin. So this is ridiculous to head back home into snow now. We thought, we've never been in the Smokies. Let's check it out. So we found a place to stay in the Smokies for a week, and we just love spring in the Smokies. And we've done it since then. I've gone back there last year, as a matter of fact. Just love that area, but we discovered it because we had to change our route plans. And that was a positive thing. And the snow was gone when we came back. No shoveling.
I spent a couple days in preparation watching these YouTube videos, and the lifestyle was pretty awesome. It just, there's a lot of the maintenance and the breakdowns and the unknowns of the unknowns. I guess it's like anything else. You have to weigh the risk with the rewards, or the pros with the cons, whatever terminology you want to use.
Yeah, it's preparation. Be aware that not if this is going to happen, but when it's going to happen. So far, knock on wood for us, we've been fortunate, but we're prepared. We know how to handle it if it does happen. And in the backup situation, we have roadside assistance also. But yeah, preparation is number one. That's key. Do a lot of research.
How old are you, Mike?
I'll be 70 this month.
Right, 70. Yeah, it's awesome. Well, yeah, well, happy early birthday, Mike. But so how do you and your wife maintain your health and well-being? Is it pretty easy? You don't really have a whole lot of space to live in, but you're in cool places that have hikes and bike rides, and like you were mentioning, you're playing pickleball. I mean, do some of these places have swimming pools? And
oh, yeah. Wherever we go long-term in the winter has swimming pool and hot tub and the amenities for keeping active. And that's what we try to do, the biking, hiking, playing pickleball, so on. But maintaining our health also. Our home base is Wisconsin. We maintain our doctors in Wisconsin, do our annual checkups, keep up on our meds. We use Walgreens and Walmart for medications, and the plus side there, you can get your refills wherever you are. That's the other thing you have to consider. Another consideration is looking into where is healthcare where you land. In an emergency, is there good healthcare nearby? So we'd like to check into that also.
Have you ever stopped and spent time in a Walmart parking lot or a Cracker Barrel or something like that? Or do you always find a legit campsite?
We have done that, the Walmart parking lot. As I understand, we haven't done it for quite a few years now, but as I understand it nowadays, there's more and more of them restricting that. The last time we did it, I think we ended up in a row of semis. And of course, the refrigeration units are running all night. You don't get a lot of rest, but it's a stopover, little rest, and back on the road. Waysides, we have not stayed overnight at a wayside, anything like that, or a Cracker Barrel. I understand Cracker Barrel does allow it, and they do. I have seen some spaces, but kind of limited spacing. And there again, I want to bring up, there's strength in numbers. If you can find a place where others in your situation are staying, I think you feel a little more safe, you feel watched over, and you do watch over each other. Be aware of your surroundings. Again, research where you're headed, know your route, and play it safe that way.
Sounds like you would take being next to a bunch of semis than being in that parking lot by yourself then. Maybe you're not getting as good of a night's sleep.
Not as good of a night's sleep, but there's people around. But the Walmarts we haven't done and probably won't in the near future. We've been able to find accommodations for one-night stays at reasonably priced campgrounds along our route. So we do it that way.
From what I'm hearing is that if you are a spontaneous person, maybe the RV lifestyle is not for you unless you want to be setting up shop at Walmarts and rest stops, because these camps, like any primo spot, is a year in advance, and you better have a route defined to make sure that route can handle an RV, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, you bring up a couple of points that I wanted to talk about, and you're right. Many people do like to be more spontaneity, have that spontaneity, and they take pleasure in that. We run into a lot of that too. People that just love doing that. Myself, I like to know where I'm going next and know that the campground's not full and can accept us. So sometimes on our route, we'll be calling ahead. Do you have room for us? And map it out that way. The other thing about your route that I want to bring up is we have a RV-friendly GPS. It's a Garmin, but not to promote any one product, but there's several out there. An RV GPS is something I'd say is a must. You punch in your length, your height of your RV, and that GPS will not tend to take you under a short overpass. You don't want to run into that when it's time to turn around because you can't make it through. So planning your route with that is very valuable, especially if some of these motorhomes are 13 feet high. You could be running into some restricted overpasses that way. And they won't take you on paved roads also. So it's that safety in your route using one of those. We also use what's called a rear view camera mounted to our trailer. It's nice for backing up. If you have volume, you can hear your wife swear at you or whatever as you're backing up. But I use it continually as we're going down the road because I can watch. It's like another rear view mirror. I can see what's behind me and how close before I make a lane change or what have you. So I feel safer in using those items, plus that tire pressure monitoring system. So we have all kinds of gadgets lined up on our windshield for safety and for our travels.
If you're saying some of these RVs are 13 feet tall, I imagine there's a lot of national park areas you can't even go to. Like, you really would limit yourself. Like you were saying before, do your research. You'd have to do, I feel like, some really serious research. Some of the YouTube videos, the biggest mistake they said they made was just kind of like rushing it. They were so excited to start their RV lifestyle, they just rushed into buying an RV.
And right, there are those restrictions. You're going to have the low-hanging branches in a lot of those sites and roads into the sites in national parks and state parks. These parks were developed when there were small campers. They're not used to the campers we have nowadays. That research and asking the question on your forums or look it up on YouTube. People are great in sharing that experience and how to avoid those situations.
One of the most important components of retirement is financials. If you're on a fixed income, you have to really be cognizant of a budget. What are some of the pros to retiring in an RV if we're talking from a financial standpoint? Or are there none?
Well, there are. We don't tend to dine out a lot, so there's a savings there. If the budget's tight, this next couple of weeks, we don't take that little road trip we were going to do. But we still have the amenities and the fun things we like to do. And we have our togetherness. We enjoy that. So I don't think we feel financial constraints as some might. You want to talk about mail, receiving your mail. A lot of junk mail, but there is mail that there are packages you might be expecting. So you can set up your mailbox at the resort you stay long-term also. And that's what we usually do, set it up ahead of our arrival and a start date and an end date through the post office. Amazon deliveries and so on can be received wherever you are. Our mail, when we're in Wisconsin, we use a Wisconsin mailbox. And that's our daughter's address, basically. And we collect there every once in a while.
Have you ever done any boondocking then? Have you been off the grid, so to speak?
We've done a little, but not with this trailer. As I mentioned, the refrigerator, the 12-volt system. I'm a little leery. I'd do it a couple of nights maybe with the generator, building up the batteries. But we have in the past, and with a generator, we've done all right. In previous, of course, on a motorhome, most of them have a built-in generator. So that's on board. That you have that anytime you want to push the button and run it. So that's a plus for that type of travel. Most times you can find at least electric sites, unless you're way up north in the state forest. There's a lot of boondocking there. And people enjoy it. When we host up there, we have electric, so we have that amenity. But many people are camping, boondocking. They love coming back. The campgrounds are full all the time. So, yeah, many people do it.
We talked before we recorded, you were talking about going to Zion. So you can drive through Colorado and go through the Black Gunnison and go hit the $1 Million Highway or something outside of Ouray. But I feel like in a lot of those places, you're going to be kind of boondocking because, especially depending on the time of the year, but like you have the gray water, how much fresh water do you have? And you're running into a lot more hypotheticals.
With that, again, you bring up a point. You have to know the size of your tanks. Your freshwater tank, how many gallons can you take on board? And hopefully there's a dump station prior to setting up camp where you can fill it up. And then you monitor your tanks and dump on your way out. But, you might have to restrict yourself depending on how many showers you take in the RV, or is there shower buildings at the campground that you can utilize. Use those facilities and minimize what you use in the RV. You can extend your stay that way also.
You said you've been to Florida, but you're more inland. If you wanted to be on the beach, are there places that you could just park your RV all summer and be on a beach in Florida?
Yeah, there are places. Of course, just like in realty, location, 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 you're going to pay a lot more. I don't mind a day trip to the beach. Some people would rather be on the beach their whole season. The other consideration there is you have salt air and corrosion issues. I've learned about that throughout the years too, people talking about it and realizing it after those stays. Those are considerations also to maintain and retain the value of your RV.
Yeah, that's a good point. When you live on the beach, you do have to deal with that salty air. So, Mike, what would you say would be some of the biggest mistakes that you made? And if you were to learn from them and pass that knowledge on to someone listening to this, what would those be?
Biggest is purchasing the wrong unit. We've had several throughout the years, and each time after some living in it and evaluating the size and circumstances, you go and purchase something else. The mistake is going to an RV show, because that's when you find out, here's a new floor plan that I think we really like. Well, that can change too. But I think the biggest mistake is not doing the amount of research you should. What's the floor plan you think you want? The storage that you need? Think this all out and depend on others through forums or what have you who have experienced it. And you maybe won't make that same mistake twice. But choosing the right RV from the start based on your plan for your lifestyle. That changes. That can change up, as it did with us. Even when we gave up full-time during COVID, we found out we still love camping, and we got a trailer to do that until we could get on the road again. And we also set up at a seasonal site in northern Wisconsin for the whole spring, summer, and fall. So we've experienced that too. We just leave the trailer and leave it over winter. We've done that in the past also.
What is it about the RV? Are you talking like diesel versus unleaded? Are you talking about just the layout? And if you're talking about the layout, how do layouts just differ so much that makes a huge difference?
If I had an unlimited amount of funds, which I don't, or restricted, I would have gone diesel pusher, and that would be a motorhome. You don't have to worry about going through the Rockies and so on. It's going to make it over those elevations. With the gas motorhome, we did it. We went to Yellowstone Glacier and so on. But pedal to the metal, 45 miles an hour, that's the difference. That's a big difference. And you're towing a car. But we did all right. We had the room. We had a slide-out bedroom. We had a big slide-out living room. And plenty of storage underneath. Again, gas versus diesel. With the gas, you have that transmission and shaft going through the RV. So your undercarriage storage is limited because of that shaft being in the way. So you have storage on either side of that. Whereas a diesel pusher, obviously you have more storage. Your shaft is from the rear, your engine is back there. So you have a lot of pass-through storage in a diesel pusher. So there's a lot of pluses to that, the power and the storage. And generally you're going to have probably 4 slide-outs. So a lot of room, a lot of living space. But with the travel trailer, I think we made the right decision on this one. And I believe we're going to hang on to it for a long time. I hope.
You hope. It sounds like, Mike, what you're saying is that if funds aren't an issue, you just go diesel then? Is it just better?
That would have been my preference when I was going Class A motorhome, yeah. Yep. Of course, you have the fuel costs involved, and your maintenance is a lot more expensive on a diesel versus gas.
Where's the coolest place you've RV'd to?
Oh, I got to say Glacier. It's awesome. As you've heard it before, pictures don't do it justice. Just being there and being in it. My gosh, the Grand Tetons. Those mountains seemingly just coming right out of the water. looking over the lake there. But so far, I think that's been the best. That Yellowstone is very comparable. But yeah, that was 2017. We took that trip and we loved it.
You brought up pets, Mike. Do you have any difficulty? If you have a cat, so I guess it's probably not too difficult, but what if you had a dog? Would it be harder to go to campsites? Is there campgrounds that have no pets allowed?
I haven't run into any that say no pets allowed. Where we're going in Arizona this year has a pet area. And the area we're going to be in is considered no pets because the cat is not an issue. But that's the only restrictions I've seen. A lot of people do have dogs. A lot of people have several dogs, but that's consideration. Most places restrict noise from barking. So if you intend on leaving your pet in the RV, make sure you know they're well trained. Don't bark when you're gone, because there will be complaints about that. And most people are very responsible and know what they're doing when they come to that. They've been traveling with the pets. And you find in a state park once in a while that people aren't aware. Maybe they don't camp that much and aren't aware of their dog's activities when they are gone from the camper. So you run into that. But cat, like you said, cat is easy to travel with. We can leave her a couple of nights if we want to go visit our kids or grandkids from where we're at. We can leave her a couple of nights and she's on her own, self-sufficient. So don't have to worry. Whereas a dog is more of an issue.
Mike, I like to talk to some people that are a little bit more mature in life because I feel like most people are kind of the same. So I'm younger than you, but when I'm your age, aka pushing 70, I'll basically be Mike Jr. or whatever, right? And so I feel like it's just kind of a...
Thank you.
The key is just to implement what you're doing earlier, because we're all going to end up in the same spot anyways. Talking with my parents and some of their friends in Panama, talking with you. I feel like, to me, maybe I'm wrong here, but maybe the ideal situation is maybe RVing like 6 months out of the year, and then you have a place 6 months where you can do maintenance on it, get all that taken care of, not have to worry about sending a technician out, and having that home base. Maybe you can see your grandkids, hopefully great grandkids, and get your appointments. Yeah,
I believe that.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I believe that's your parents' situation, and that is ideal. But for us right now, with the campground hosting that we like to do in the summer also, we can continue with what we're doing as long as we're liking it. But as I said, we can always change it up. We have our storage unit and we can set up household again, which could happen.
What are the main advantages of full-time RV living? And this doesn't have to necessarily be from your eyes as a retired individual. It could be just in general, like if you're 35 and working remote, or if you're 70 and retired. What's the main advantages?
The main advantage is you can change it up and you can go where you want. Your home is with you. So if we decide maybe Arizona isn't it next year after we stay there a winter, we're going to look for elsewhere. We're going to tour and we're going to see new places. A lot of people we've talked to have been to almost all of the states RVing. We're nowhere near that. We want to get up into Maine yet, and more of the East Coast, and up into the Northwest. So wide variety of things we'd like to do yet. And that's the advantage. You can do it as long as you're able yet and have the means. So that's the exciting part.
As in a goal of yours, go to every national park or go to every state, maybe minus Hawaii, you know?
Hey, been there. I was in the Navy. That wasn't a vacation, though. But
not a vacation.
No, but I think regions, I talk about the Northeast, the Northwest, not specifically certain states, but the adventure along the way and getting to those points A, point B, and seeing what it all has to offer. Life is so short. Do we have enough time? Every day you think, how much time is there? Especially when you get up to our age. So as long as we can, we're going to do it and enjoy and hopefully remember those experiences as we can't do it anymore.
How many square feet is your RV, Mike?
Oh, let's see. That's probably about, I'm looking at maybe 300 square feet.
you're physically closer, right? How has this transformed your relationship? Has it brought you closer,
Definitely.
more emotionally, not physically, of course?
Definitely.
But so has that been a benefit from that standpoint, or a drawback, or neutral?
No, I think that's a benefit. You learn what you really do like about each other when you have close confinement and you're together most often. She took off shopping today. She doesn't like being on camera. But so she's got her space today.
Right. It sounds like I did you a favor today.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you've been doing this, 2017, basically 6 years minus a little stint there. You talked to a lot of RVers. How long do they typically do? What's the longest? Have you met someone that's been doing 30 years? What's the king of the road you've met so far?
I remember talking to a couple that I think have been doing it for 10 or 15. I think that's about the longest, and I'm sure there's longer tenured full-timers out there. But I believe 10 to 15 is what I've run into, and they're still enjoying it.
Have you met people that you used to meet up with and all of a sudden they're not doing it anymore? Have you run into some of those people that stopped RVing?
There's a few, but I think most that were into at least camping are still doing it that we know. And again, you run into the same people. If you, let's see, we've gone to 2 places in Florida now, 2 resorts where we've stayed more than 1 year, 2 years at each. And we'd run into the same people at one, and we'd find out they did the same research and found another park to go to because there was a big discount. They were just opening up, half price for the first year. And several people that we knew from that previous park came over to the other one and renewed friendships there again. But a lot of people doing the snowbirding do the same thing. You're always looking for a bargain. Prices generally go up probably 5 to 7% a year on your lot rent. So you're looking for the deals. And generally, it'll be a newly developed RV resort where they offer these discounts to get you in. So again, research and change it up. If you like a certain region and want to try a different resort, there's plenty of them wherever the snowbirds go.
Let's say hypothetically, Mike, that you had unlimited funds. We're not talking RV lifestyle. We're talking any lifestyle you want. If you had unlimited funds, what advice would you give to someone that was looking to retire?
Ideally would be, I'm a winter wimp now. I do not like shoveling. I don't like the snow. So wintering in a warmer climate, but still loving the state of Wisconsin. So ideally a place in each. Still maintaining that closeness to family. That's important.
Would you say condo or would you say RV?
Well, that brings up a good point. Condo is something that would be more appealing to me because of maintenance issues on the home. You don't have as many, yet you can take off and vacation whenever you want and not worry about it. And that's what we did our first year that we went to Florida in 2015. We had a motorhome and a condo at that time. No worries. Shoveling and plowing is done. Your home is maintained, and you're pretty much worry-free that way and still enjoy your...
I think my parents got a pretty good lifestyle where they got the beach and then they have the place in Wisconsin the other half of the year. Like I mentioned before, I was doing research for this podcast, and one of the themes that jumped out at me was not having control. Since you don't actually own, you don't have a piece of property that you're going to, that you could have any neighbor. Your rules are dictated by whatever campsite or resort that you're on, or state park, county park, whatever you want to say. So not having control for me, it's okay if it was temporary, but if it was all the time, it would be maybe a deal breaker for me from that standpoint.
Yeah, and you can run into that, and I'm not saying we haven't run into that, where maybe things about a resort aren't as appealing now as they were when you first started staying. But through research, you can find another place. And overall, most are run very well, and you generally have good neighbors. Not saying that can't happen, that you run into somebody that you just aren't compatible with. But you're right, there's a loss of control there. And if you're in there for a season and want to move elsewhere, good luck, because most places are booked full once you're in season down there, or wherever you are snowbirding. So, yeah, in that respect, there is a loss of control, but you can change it up the next time.
What advice would you give to someone considering retiring in an RV that has never even been in an RV?
Oh, That's a good point. Never been in one. Yeah. So you can rent, and you can rent various types of RVs. And I would recommend doing that type of research first. First of all, see if you're going to like it. You have to try it out for at least a week, I'd say. Vacation in something, maybe in a state park nearby, what have you. Go through it. Try and understand the systems that you're going to have to deal with. The layout. Is this something that's big enough? And if you don't try it for at least a week, I don't think you find that out. A month would be ideal. But yeah, that renting, I would say, first of all, try it out that way so you don't make a mistake and buy that wrong RV and have to change it up within a year. But consider the amount of space that you're going to need, what you would be taking along with you storage-wise. Are you towing with a truck? Have the right size truck for the weight of the RV. That's another big consideration. We just changed trucks because we're looking at going into mountainous areas and didn't feel comfortable with the half-ton truck that we had, so we went up to 3/4 ton and we won't have worries. But those issues. And if you're comfortable, a fifth wheel is something that accommodates more of a home-type atmosphere also. Fifth wheel trailer, you can get one with a lot more slides. 3/4 ton towable, some of them. Some you'd have to have a 1-ton dually pickup. And then you're talking diesel probably also. So all those considerations. And when you talk about a diesel truck, you're talking about more expense in maintenance versus a gas truck. We got the gas. But there again, do your research, try things out. I would recommend renting. Go to different dealers after you've seen floor plans of the type of RV you want and the manufacturer. There's many manufacturers out there that are touted as very good, and we believe we've got one now, and we had one previously made by very respectable manufacturers who deal with the customer right, very customer-oriented. All those issues come into play, too. After the purchase, how are you going to be dealt with by that manufacturer or dealer? Choose the right dealer, too, through reviews. So many aspects to look at. But choosing the right RV, first of all, for you. And you brought up a good point. Try it out before you purchase, if you can.
Maybe younger people are familiar with the van life. As you get older, maybe the van life turns into kind of the RV lifestyle. Would you ever consider the van life? There'd be some pros to that where maybe you don't have to book stuff out as far in advance. You have more spontaneity, things like that, right?
Yeah, in that respect, more spontaneity, but we sure couldn't bring what we want to bring with us. But you look at parking ability. You want to go to the beach and find a parking space. There you go. You got the vehicle that you can do it with. You're not going to do that with a Class A or Class C motorhome or a travel trailer. And along the way, if you want to change it up and stay at a motel on your route, easy parking, easy in and out. And yeah, so it wouldn't be for us, I don't think. But yeah, for many, and I see a lot of people doing it. It could be a good choice for some. This is all me. I'm not trying to promote any certain RV or lifestyle with an RV, just based on our experience.
I lived out west for quite a few years. I've been to Zion and all the national parks in Utah and Colorado. But anyway, I've been to a lot of these national parks, and one of the advantages I always noticed is that in the off-season, it's basically just retired people. You can pick and choose when you want to go, and that has to be a major perk of being retired.
Yeah, and part of our research is looking at when's the best time to go, and you're exactly right. But we're finding also, because these places are so popular, especially up in Utah, there's a lottery system to get into certain areas just for hiking or viewing. They want to limit the footprint in those areas. So you have to reserve your spot ahead of time just to get in and see it all.
I was in Yosemite, and I was by myself, and I went to get permits, and they're like, "You're not going to get permits for 2 years. Yeah, how many people are? How many people are in your group?" And I was like, "It's just me."
Yeah.
And the lady's like, "It's just you." And I was like, "Yeah, because I wanted to do the half dome." She's like, "Perfect. I got a spot for you." She's like, "Most people don't travel solo, but I noticed traveling solo, it was a lot easier to get permits. In my experience, though, Mike, a lot of the state parks are actually cooler than the national parks. They're less developed. Like Bear Ears in Utah, to me, reminded me of Moab probably 50 years ago. Okay. And you don't have to have as many permits. You don't have as many restrictions. You don't have the crowds. What's your experience, Mike?
Well,
do you feel like the state parks have some...
Yeah, generally speaking, I'm talking about Wisconsin state parks. You have more space between sites, a lot more natural setting. Many times you can get right on a small lake in the state parks. Listen to the loons. We love the loons. Just a peaceful type of camping. Yeah, I would assume most state parks have that, better spacing and so on. Because, as we talked before, they are older. They were set up for that purpose years ago.
People always focus on the financials, so I don't need you to necessarily drill down just because it might be a little bit personal. But if we could just talk about some ballpark figures, what would be the minimum you'd kind of recommend people have?
Let me consult my accountant. She just arrived. Low figure, ballpark, what does it cost us annually for full-timing? No, just in general, everything.
Gas?
Yeah, she said gas is a big thing.
To go to Florida or Arizona for 6 months, it probably costs around $5,000.
Mm-hmm. About $5,000 we're talking about for
RV parking in
for your
Florida.
snowboarding. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the fuel involved with to and from. And then throughout the year, of course, you're at other campgrounds and resorts. So all figured in, you're probably looking at a 15.
I don't really know.
Yeah. Hard to say.
We just spend what we have.
We spend what we have. But you know what your budget is, and you have to stay within that.
That's why we like hosting.
That's the advice. And that's, like she says, that's why we like hosting also. It augments some of that stay. You have the free stay for a little bit of volunteer work. And we have also hosted at a resort in Florida a couple of years ago. It wasn't anywhere near like hosting at a state park, we found out. But if people are interested in that, there are some of those opportunities. And we actually had complete free stay. So you're looking at a cost savings of $5,000. And we had, in a lot of these places, meter your electric. The electric was also free for hosting. It ended up being more time than we really were looking for and that we thought it was going to involve at first. So we didn't do it the second year. But there are those opportunities, too, if you look into it. If you're interested in a resort and then ask if there's opportunity for work camping or hosting, you might find that.
How much time did you spend hosting?
That one, we probably did about, I'm guessing we got up to 30 hours a week sometimes. It got very busy. They were shorthanded and ended up doing more than you expected to do.
So you're at basically 3/4 full time. Which,
Yeah.
I mean, if it's 15 hours, right.
That wasn't a relaxing vacation anymore. It was a good experience. We met almost everybody coming into the park because we'd lead them into their site. Met a lot of great people that way. So that was one great aspect, but more time consuming than we really wanted. Again, that's our personal experience in it, and some people maybe look forward to doing something like that.
Well, you're retired, so you want to be retired.
Yeah.
Mike Mixa, thanks for joining us for 90 minutes today. I just have a final question. What's your final thought?
As we talked, it's a big life change. Consider your health. Consider where you're at in life. You have to love what you're doing. Otherwise, it doesn't pay. Enjoy what's left. As we age, that's what we think of a lot. We're going to do it as long as we can. Enjoy life, enjoy family, and enjoy friendship. That's what we get out of it.
Well, thank you so much, Mike, for joining us today. And hopefully we can do a follow-up in a year and we'll see
where we're at and what changed.
See what changed, right?
Hey, very nice meeting with you and talking to you, Jesse.
My dear friends, that is it for this episode of El Podcast. Once again, if you're not yet subscribed, please subscribe on YouTube as well as Rumble. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts from. We thank you all from the bottom of our hearts for watching and listening, and we will see you on the next episode.